Soremos, dear little petticoats, tittered and turned, in and out. Foil me, honey. Furl me. Soremos. So I stutter, and the trouble was I lost the guy really. Oh, really, I do really. Really and truly and treely. But the finish sung is petticoatle. Pity was, 'twas was. I do. Like a camel has two humps, but anyway I do care. What funny ears, what furry eyes, what Buick teeth. The better to you with, my dear. And in the studio, too, not a tenant. No. No what? No, thank you, no. No, I never really. Oh, he's got furry skies, all right, all right, all right. And such sturdy size, and I'm crazy about him, no fooling. I live in a box, though God knows it's an obsession, really, in the eye. He'd sell his own mother for a look. Such starry skies, scary. It's catching. Art, very, really. Well, scratch me, darling, you'll feel canvas. Brush me, and I plead cadmium. My eyes are green oxide of chrome. With a tank, sure, why not? Of cobalt. There's titanium. Oxgum, hemulax. Scariously. What then is a painter? Take it easy, Gillette. There's always Balzac. So I said, no, no. A girl has to respect something. It's a question of all or everything. And why should I? Posing is hard work. Even sitting, you want to. Anything but something. So many things, really. Why, Mr. Porpoise. It is Mr. Porpoise, isn't it? I can't stand it another. A famous man, too. 60. Shall we talk about what, or is it that tea is lukewarm? 5, sir, 5. So gallant withal, I swan. Allow me, my friend, Mr. Poussin, to be presented by, too. Oh, and a gentleman of the old school, George Washington, Jr., Elementary, P.S. 48. Yes. Gone with you. Marvelous, he does, and says. I'm being inspected. Take a good look. And will I do? So an old man. Of course, too. I know. Look, Grandpa, I can read. What you take me for. It's out of honore de... Oh, well, one gets caught up. It comes from a respect for literature. A mistake, of course. Anyway, I know exactly. So this old man may compare the product of his birch that no painting ever sought of. La, Sarah, you earner me. No loss. For a distinguished aggregation, where's your hook and lorn and ladder and hadder? Avec plaisir, cher maître. Rest assured of the most distinguished to suet the embers of a passion that probably died about sank. With a shirk of it looked, it acted like, by Getty, it was, a PC of Pride Pineapple. It lived, loved, laved, it breathed, broke, breathed. And the shadow, shodo that lurked in what was once the core of this creature contained the complementary putrescence of light itself. So by 5, he'd stopped growling and was peeling portraits out of bonnets. So much for nurture mortified, and it doesn't run very deep anyway, and better never than too early. It's ever a question of how or ever, and no wonder the tired eye is afer to see something worked over for 10 years. And no wonder, too, this plot to bribe the mater, so share, with a model, so to voo to them, chez Douvre. And in this dream, I, too, caught like a spittle girl, immersed all in a story, a silly story, to pose or not to. I love him not. Or rather, since I love him less already, why not? An old man, mad about paint, Frenhofer and Gillette, Beauté and Best, me and Minotaur. Cats are carnivorous. Somewhere lies a man's head and the leftover part of a bull. God save us. Was that really a threat to Greek maidens? It was a finished sort of sacrifice. Have you got a Minotaur in your basement, too? Oh, Lord, grant us that we may overcome the omnivorous head and the amorous mass. The questions arise, the conflictions come. Are there basements within basements or without? Oh, where is Frenhofer? Dear old Frenhofer, my mini tower. Anyway, fear the Greeks. Art takes its loving sacrifice. A story for Cauldron. Once upon a time, there was an old man who'd been painting one painting for 10 years. His name was Frenhofer. For what? And none else had seen the fruit of his labor. 10 years is a lifetime too long with one. So he started looking for a model to compare. All he wanted was the most beautiful woman in the world, to prove to himself that his painting was more beautiful than any possible woman. He had a funny day. Only the impalpable is suppable. So he went culling, to see Porpoise. And there was Poussin, too. And the two wanted to see what the third had done in 10 years. Because it was a masterpiece, they wanted to learn something. One because he was old, and the other because he was young. Now, the young man was in love with a young girl, but he loved painting more, so he told Porpoise that the beautiful young girl might pose for the old painter, who would then permit his painting to be seen by the young painter and the old friend who was also a painter and whose name was Porpoise. And so it was, Porpoise. They came along, and the beautiful young girl said yes, oh yes, and yes, she said it because she had read the story. And she had much to respect for literature anyway, and because she had been well wrought up. A Finney sung, very, oh, very, yes. Thank you, please. Or not to pose? Yes, of course. Of course. Meow. Meow. Kitty, my mini, mini, mini tower. Kitty, kitty. Kitty, kitty. Should I hesitate? Yes, darling, yes, of course. Yes. And so, on a cold December morning in the year 1612, a young man whose clothing was somewhat of the thinnest was walking to and fro before a gateway. He went up and down the street before this house with the irresolution of a gallant who dares not, for the first time, the woman he loves, easy of access though she may be. But after a sufficiently long interval, he crossed at last the threshold and inquired of an old woman who was sweeping out a large room on the ground floor, where the Master Porpoise was within. The young man went slowly up the staircase like a gentleman newly come to court and doubtful of his reception. Why not? Ham on rye, cheese and salad. With Condole, it was a question of pride, not gain. There was nothing in it for him. If he showed his wife, it was because he loved her and not in order to seek something better. Or because, for all human sentiments, there is a time of early blossoming, a day of generous enthusiasm that gradually fades until nothing is left of happiness but a memory, and glory is known for a delusion. Of all those delicate and short-lived emotions, none so resemble love as the passion of a young artist for his art, as he is about to enter on the blissful martyrdom of his career of glory and disaster, of vague expectations and real disappointments. Those who have missed this experience in the early days of full hearts and empty pockets, who have not in the dawn of their genius stood in the presence of a master and felt the throbbing of their hearts, will always carry in their inmost souls a chord that has never been touched, and in their work an indefinable quality will be lacking, a something in the stroke of the brush. Look too long on me, that is, and he falls a victim to despair? Or is it the other, the painting? For 10 years, but the least he can do since Poussin consents is to consent. And it isn't the same thing, nature or nurture. For 10 years, he loves her, she's his. Oh, she smiles with each stroke of the brush on the canvas. Of course, and she has a soul that she has given her. She isn't a painting, but a sentiment, a passion. Not a canvas, but a woman with whom he talks. He shares her thoughts, her tears, her laughter, to fling aside. So forget it and look a long time for another, and don't find her, and the picture will be unfinished. No, it's finished. Besides, we haven't the same views. For me, the girl is beautiful, but the beautiful is not a girl. Only the impossible is the perfection of painting and poetry, and perhaps of life, too. You can describe impossible things only when they are better than possible ones, which is why, and even if I united in my person all the beauties possessed by the image of Helen, I would still be merely possible. The views are different. Impossible things can only be described when they are better than possible. And by the same token, what is possible can only be understood when we have managed to describe something better. This is the point. If we don't come to it, or lose it, or miss it in the obscurity of a mistaken effort, we commence again with a clean canvas, perhaps. And if we were to do over a new direction, a different goal, something perhaps natural, but beyond, oh yes, beyond anatomy. With what is possible, to paint as a painter and with such an avoidance of specific events and already formulated ideas, it would probably not even be painting. And what is so precious about painting, unless it be precious? And if it be precious and not painting, foil me, honey, foil me. That's all. Beyond anatomy. That's all. Kitty. Kitty. That's all. So I said to the old man, go ahead and compare. And if you don't like it, what are you going to do? Shut yourself up for another 10 years? And then what? What? And so, Minotaur, out of came naturally. For 10 years, beautiful, and in the light, too. A is for art. I wonder how Nicky feels. I wonder. Poor Nicky, I love him less. And the old man's crazy about his kitty. Kitty, let's go. So it's over, and my God, what a perturbation it is, whether to or not to, when you stop to think. And if you don't, I always say if a girl doesn't look after, what is there before I come in? Yes, oh, come in, my dears, right in this way, my parlor. Of course. She's beautiful, perfect, ollie out and free. What did you expect? Never shall paint produce a rival. Never. That's right. Those others, daubs, studies, poses, nothing. But for this, not a picture, but a woman, no less. Such depth. The atmosphere of air, or isn't it? Where is art? It's vanished. It's invisible. It's the firm of a loving girl. And what hues of life, what spirit of the loving line that surrounds the flesh and defines the figure. It stands out so that if you wanted to, you could pass your hand along the back. Because for 7 years, by study and watching how the daylight fell and blended with the objects on which it fell, for 7 years, and the hair light like a flood, or don't it? Her breast, she breathes, her pulse throbs. There's no limit. It's my canvas, stretcher, easel, colors, and canvas. A confused mouth mass of color making a wall of dead paint, and in one corner a foot, a single miraculous foot. So maybe it's a joke. The old man's laughing, and there's nothing, only a confused mass and a multitude of fantastical lines that go to make up a dead wall of paint. Except not quite, because there's the foot. And if you take a good look, a woman beneath. Not the foot, but the wall of paint. And the foot's all that's left, and he believes it. That it needs faith and art. And you have to live a long time to produce such a creation. What toil some of those shadows cost. All the unheard of toil, no less and more. There are highlights on the bosom, touch on touch. The surface raised to catch the light. Oh, a great painter, without question. Do you know that in him we see, but even more of a poet? Certainly, more than a painter. Goodbye. Here lies the utmost limit of our art on earth. Beyond this point, it loses itself in the skies. It's superb. Really, it loses itself. And when sooner or later he finds there is nothing there, nothing. Nothing, but nothing. Get out, fools, idiots and fools. So they can't see. Or is it true there's nothing there? A confused mass after 10 years. A madman. Nothing. Neither talent nor power. Nothing. A rich man who works for his own pleasure and makes no progress. Nothing. On the other hand, fools. She is there, marvelously beautiful. Marvelous. She's beautiful. Marvelously beautiful. And sawmost petticoats. Like a camel has 2 humps. Or 3, why not? If a cow's tail comes after, why not? Why not? So I shudder, and the silly thing is, oh yes it is. It is. It is.